ACC on ESPN. It's the second-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels taking on number 19, the Louisville Cardinals. North Carolina at 19-2 overall and 8-0 in ACC play. They're the only remaining undefeated team in conference. That 8-0 start their best in the ACC since 2000-2001 when they started 11-0. And as you see, Louisville right behind them, alone in second place. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Sean McDonough, along with Doris Burke. Delighted to have you with us. And Doris, they're 19-2. They've won 12 in a row, 16 of 17. You get the sense, watching North Carolina and talking to Roy Williams, their coach, they're capable of better than they've been playing.
I think so. I think they have a higher ceiling and more answers on the offensive end than any team in the country. Encouraging sign against Boston College. Marcus Page broke out of what was the worst shooting slump of his career. I'm anxious to see Justin Jackson tonight. Can he perform at a high level, get some confidence going? You know you're going to have Trey Lewis and Damian Lee perform better than they were against Virginia, and they'll need to.
Louisville coming off its worst home loss in the 6-year history of this building. Here's Kaylee Hartung.
Well, Sean, the identity of this Carolina team is that they have no identity. As Roy Williams says, it just keeps changing with every game as they have to depend on somebody different to get it done. Tonight he says they have got to be able to depend on Marcus Page. Yes, that shooting slump, the worst of his great career, has been well documented. But Roy Williams says even when his shot's not falling, he finds ways to positively affect the game. He wants his team to be able to draw strength from Page tonight.
He's one of a few Tar Heels haven't shot the ball particularly well lately. The two teams ready to go. Bryce Johnson and Chinanu Onuaku contested the tip, and it was won by Onuaku of Louisville. Trey Lewis, one of two graduate students, will play 1 year for Louisville in the starting lineup, and they're the two leading scorers. Damian Lee is the other, and he has the ball now. Transfer from Drexel. Shot clock down to 3. And a turnover to start the game. Not what Rick Pitino had in mind off that 16-point loss to Virginia here on Saturday.
Well, they were manhandled by the Cavaliers, who are starting to look very cavalier with their defensive performance. You see the frustration early. There was a lack of ball reversal from Louisville. We'll show you some numbers shortly that will indicate part of the problem against Virginia, something that can't be replicated here tonight.
Page, and the defense right up on him. Bill Berry's really been their most consistent player, according to the coaches. Fed Page, who missed it. It was tipped out by Onuaku, and then a foul against the Tar Heels.
These are the numbers I was referring to and talking to Ralph Willard when they broke down the film against Virginia, where you have got to get them shifting side to side. When they had no ball reversal, look at that field goal percentage. And obviously, the more the ball changed sides, the more effective their offense became, something we'll track over the course of the evening.
Carolina foul was on Justin Jackson. Wow, right down the lane for the dunk, Damian Lee. And that brings the crowd to life early. They're still filing in here. There was a major traffic jam in downtown Louisville tonight as matter of fact, Rick Pitino was scrambling to get here and got here later than usual. Another takeaway and nearly a give back by Louisville. Lee for 3. Jalen Johnson. And now Quentin Snyder, who runs the show. Floater blocked by Berry. Look at the big man Johnson handle it. Handled a bit too long and traveled.
Well, Louisville, we were anticipating that the two graduate transfers who went 3 for 13 would be better. The trap by Carolina, he eludes the trap and goes right to the rack. That is beautifully done. How many blue jerseys did he split there? Wow.
He's a scorer. He was 4th in the nation in scoring last year at Drexel. Better than 21 points per game, 11th in the ACC. This year it's 16.6. That leads Louisville for the year. Here he comes again. Now Trey Lewis, transferred from Cleveland State, actually started his college career at Penn State. The left-handed hook short from Jalen Johnson. Out of bounds to Carolina. The officials are Brian Kersey, Mike Eads, and Bill Covington Jr.
Here comes the matchup zone from Louisville. And remember, this is a young team. The 2 graduate transfers new to the program, obviously, and some other pieces with all of that Louisville graduated a year ago. Sean, there's a lot of young players for Louisville.
Now, they returned only 17% of their scoring from last year. Bryce Johnson, the soft touch for the first Tar Heel bucket. Matter of fact, their leading returning scorer, the man with the ball right now, Quentin Snyder, who averaged 4 points per game last season. Montrezl Harrell, Terry Rozier went on to the NBA. 3 minutes in, tied at 2. A 3-ball for Trey Lewis. Bryce Johnson having a tremendous year. Rebound by Lee and the quick push. And a turnover. Lewis's pass picked off by Joel Berry all the way to the bucket. Took a bump without a call, and it's tipped in by Justin Jackson.
Yeah, that's problematic because that was another issue for Louisville against Virginia. Early turnovers leading to runouts. And Carolina will play at the pace Louisville wants, but you can't have open floor turnovers.
Well, Rick Pitino has said this is not a Louisville type defense. A drive by Snyder, and he was fouled. A lot of the numbers for Louisville on defense coaches would pine for, but not Rick Pitino at his high standards.
That is correct. And a failed post entry pass, and a simple up fake, Sean. An up fake and then bounce it in. And then Bryce Johnson, you touched on this. This guy has been as consistent as he has ever been in a Carolina uniform. 4 years of poking and prodding from Roy Williams finally got him there.
Foul was on Berry, his first, and the free throw good for Snyder from right here in Louisville, sophomore. Leading assist man, giving them 9.8 points per game.
He's been rock solid. Really good assist to turnover ratio. On the defensive end, he's not that Peyton Siva mold great pressure guard. He's got to sort of do it with angles and toughness.
Tough shot, and it gets rattled home for Kennedy Meeks.
Boy, between Johnson and Meeks, you have the kind of interior scoring that Roy Williams has had on his 2 national championship teams. Maybe doing a little bit differently than Mr. Sean May and Mr. Tyler Hansbrough, but nonetheless effective.
Snyder showing his good ball handling ability, and it's tipped up and in by Chinanu Onuaku. He's one of the most improved players in college basketball this year. Better than 7 points per game, more than he gave them a year ago, and nearly averaging a double-double for the year. He had a string of 6 straight double-doubles ended last week at Virginia Tech. Page for 3, and Onuaku the rebound.
Onuaku has 1 more rebound than he had in the Virginia game. He was not well, and I thought they missed him against a Cavalier team that is so physically and mentally tough.
He played just 19 minutes for that 1 point and a 1 block shot. He is a highlight reel every time he takes the court. Donovan Mitchell, the freshman, has electrified this crowd over and over again this year.
Well, that was a spectacular looking drive, and they got one from Mr. Lee earlier in the game. He avoids a trap by Carolina. They hard hedge. They got exposed at the rim. Go ahead, Mr. Lee. Time to go to work.
Want to get the ball in Page's hands. Got the switch. Soft off the glass and Carolina wins.
Jones in transition over the top. Montrezl Harrell. They win in overtime to avenge the earlier loss to North Carolina.
North Carolina defeats Louisville for the 2nd time in 3 meetings this season. And they were 3 memorable meetings last season. We spoke to Roy Williams this morning. He said Louisville really dominated that first game up in Chapel Hill, but lost. And Carolina came from 13 down, 8.5 minutes to go. And Roy felt like they dominated here in Louisville for about 30 minutes of that game. Louisville trailed by 18 in the second half of that game and won. And North Carolina trailed by 10 in the first half of that ACC tournament quarterfinal. Wound up winning by 10. Lots of swings in the 3 meetings.
Well, Bryce Johnson getting some attention, got whacked in the mouth. I was here for game 2, and it was a listless Louisville team in the first half. Couldn't believe how there was such a lack of energy from the team in the building, and then all of a sudden they exploded with their defensive pressure.
12 straight wins, the only losses at Northern Iowa, at Texas. This is their first game on the road against a ranked team. Tough shot, the fadeaway from Kennedy Meeks, but there is a Louisville foul on the rebounding action, and it's on Donovan Mitchell, the freshman from Greenwich, Connecticut, his first. And here's a look back. Doris mentioned Johnson got whacked in the mouth, and it's when he was trying to deny that dunk just before the timeout by Mitchell.
Could have been an offensive foul there, Sean.
Snyder loves it underneath, and Onuaku couldn't catch it. In off the bench now for Carolina's Isaiah Hicks, number 4. Perry went down after the shot. He thought there was some contact. The shot was way off. The ball hit the sideline. Snyder couldn't catch the pass, and that's 4 Cardinals turnovers already. Joel James is in off that very deep North Carolina bench.
You know, it's interesting. These two teams play at similar paces, both high scoring. Louisville just under 80 points per game. Of course, Carolina above that. They are 2 of the best teams in the country at getting points close to the rim. They dominate points in the paint. You talk to the Louisville staff, they said 2 things tonight: transition defense and be competitive on the backboards. You've got to be able to corral them. And remember, some of your transition defense, Sean, starts with the kind of shots you're taking.
Theo Pinson in off that Carolina bench. Page, another miss. So far, that shooting slump is not ending. Mitchell underneath. Onuaku caught it that time.
You like how aggressively Mitchell is playing? He's forcing the issue, trying to infuse his group with a little bit of toughness and pace.
Page, trouble on the catch, but that's because there was a foul. Ray Spalding just in a freshman call for his first foul.
So Mitchell on the wing just uses a nice efficient dribble, gets the lob to Chinanu Onuaku. You see Page is giving him a cushion, so right away he should have been able to prevent that step toward the rim.
Pinson for 3. It was deflected up high by Jalen Johnson, out of bounds to North Carolina, to the dismay of this crowd. But Rick's not arguing, that was right in front of him, so I would assume, as usual, they got it right.
Wow.
Well, it's
you're gracious in the
happens.
new year.
Well, it sometimes happens. No, these guys do a terrific job the vast majority of the time. And when they don't, Jay Billis is around somewhere to keep it in line.
You wouldn't help him out in that endeavor.
Never. I didn't have to. Jay was good enough at that all by himself. Pinson missed the 3s. Another of those Tar Heels, like Page and Jackson, who hasn't shot the ball particularly well lately. Too much dribbling, and Trey Lewis lost it. 5 Louisville turnovers, both teams being harassed by the opposing defense. Very wide open, rattles home a 3. He's their team leader in 3-point field goals made and attempted. 38% for the year, and that's his 38th make of the season.
By far the most consistent Tar Heel all season long. And he has been timely with big baskets, Barry.
8 minutes in, tied at 9. Johnson swings it. Lee's wide open. Onuaku. Strong rebound, then a weak shot.
So I think that they could have helped Damian Lee a little bit quicker. The pass was slow, and it was off target.
Hicks, baseline drive, and he's fouled on the way to the hoop. Immediate timeout. 9-9 to score in downtown Louisville.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Continental Tire. For what you do. and Deadpool. Justice has a new face February 12th.
So, Sean, we often talk about passes and whether they are on time and on target as we're all locked up at 9. It has not been a great shooting display, and some of it, I think, has to do with decision-making. And part of it is the passer. So Jalen Johnson, who's somewhat inexperienced, is going to get a pass. And instead of right away, look at how much on the right side of your screen space and opportunity Damian Lee has. Well, the ball is put lower than his shooting pocket, so it's not on time. It wasn't on target. He's got to face the close, and he misses a jump shot he would normally make.
Everybody clap your hands.
47 points, the season low Saturday against Virginia. They shot 32.7%. Worst of the year for Rick Pitino. But as you said earlier, Virginia can do that to people the way they've guarded for all these seasons now under Tony Bennett.
And because, Sean, Virginia lost some games early on the road, I don't want to say they're in desperation mode, but they understand that they've got to accumulate victories if they're going to keep pace with Carolina.
The Carolina schedule does get a lot tougher as we go forward. Really starting with this game tonight. And this is the start of a 3-game road trip for Bryce Johnson and the Tar Heels. He's back in the game. Let's check in with Kaylee Hartung.
Well, Sean, the Louisville staff recognizes you're seeing great defense being played on both ends of the floors. What that means is every shot Louisville's taking is contested. Rick Pitino wants to see his guys push the ball more and, of course, take care of it. Those 5 turnovers, something he brought up in that huddle.
He talks about that a lot. Don't shoot contested shots. Mitchell a quick 3. Louisville now 0 for 4 from beyond the arc tonight. And then it's thrown away at the other end. The 4th North Carolina turnover that Bryce Johnson couldn't rescue.
And if he can't rescue it at his size with that reach, it was really poorly placed.
Onuaku, the brother of Arinze Onuaku, is a fine player at Syracuse. Deep 2 for Quentin Snyder. Yanked down by Bryce Johnson. North Carolina averaging 85.8 points per game. That is most in the country among major conference teams. Strong move and count it for Isaiah Hicks. And that is 2 fouls on Chinanu Onuaku. And that's been one of his difficulties. He is foul prone.
Well, this is just a big time individual move because that zone was wearing out the clock. And how about Isaiah Hicks? The post skills, gives him an up fake, has to use the spin move, and he steps up into him. A lot of Onuaku's foul trouble early was actually on the offensive end screening. You know, the lean of the hip, the lean of the knee. And he had done his job. Just contest straight up.
Hicks finished the 3-point play. Onuaku, their starting center, to the bench, and they're not as deep as they were at the start of the year in the front court. Mango Mathiang, a 6'10 junior, out with a broken foot, involving a line drive with that turnaround hook. Nate Britt off the bench now for North Carolina. Not a lot of drop off in talent when Tar Heel Blue goes to the bench. A lot of these bench players would be starters on many other Division I teams. Nice defense. Anis Mahmoud, who does give them size. 7-footer. Mitchell trying to throw it down again. He got hacked by Hicks.
That's where Louisville's at its best. Can you play off misses or can you play off turnovers? Can you get some deflections? Nice job on the defensive end by Mahmoud. And this allows Mitchell with that athleticism. Boy, he's been aggressive. And why not? If you've got this kind of ups, go ahead.
He's an explosive jumper. Now the Brewster Academy, where he played on the national championship prep team a year ago, considered a top 30 prospect. And the MVP of the Jordan Brand High School All-Star game when he scored 30 points. Every time he has the ball in his hands in this building and starts toward the goal, you can feel the anticipation in the crowd.
No question.
They break the trap relatively easily. Britt almost had it flicked away by Mitchell. And the crowd likes the active Louisville defense. Johnson, a lot of feet shuffling, and a foul called. Rick Pitino irate. He and the crowd thought that Johnson walked a couple of times. Instead, it winds up as a foul called on Ray Spalding, his second.
Plus, it just felt like the whistle came late, so their defense is aggressive. Well, he hits that right arm.
Yep.
There's no question. I mean, they're upset, but that's absolutely the right call.
Spalding, you'll get the foul and like it. Bryce Johnson makes the first free throw. Spalding goes out with his two.
Would you agree, Sean, and you touched on the depth as you see Bryce Johnson's season numbers, the vastly improved free throw shooter is Bryce. Would you agree that they have more answers and a higher ceiling than most teams in the country, maybe more than anybody?
If you asked me to pick one team right now who I would like to win the national championship, it would be North Carolina, because they're #2 in the country. They've won 12 in a row, and I believe what we said at the beginning, what Roy Williams said. They haven't played their best. They have several players who are not shooting the ball anywhere near what they're capable of. They played much of the early season without Kennedy Meeks. Trouble. Jalen Johnson handed it off, and then Louisville's offense got rescued as Pinson knocked down Lee, and Theo Pinson called for his first foul.
Louisville basketball.
Each team called for 5 with 9.5 to go in the half. They come to trap Snyder. Mahmoud gave it back to Snyder. Whistle away from the ball. And the foul is on Kennedy Meeks, his first. The journey to the college football playoff, of course, starts with recruiting and National Signing Day. Wednesday, we'll have you covered coast to coast on ESPNU and ESPN2. The biggest day of the year for high school football players. The nation's #1 recruit, Rashawn Gary, is going to announce his decision live in our Bristol studio at 1 Eastern. Mahmoud, nice move, but then couldn't finish. Coverage begins, by the way, Wednesday, 8 a.m. Eastern on ESPNU. So we'll have a full day of great National Signing Day coverage.
I think that they will show Coach Saban dancing. It's amazing what coaches will do to get a recruit.
Mahmoud behind the back for the layup by Damian Lee. Honest Mahmoud at 7 feet tall, leading the break for the Cardinals. Page for 3, and he got fouled by Jalen Johnson.
Wow, how about Anas Mahmoud? Physically skilled, has to get stronger, but this is why you love the potential. How about the ability to gather it, to just gather it before the behind the back? I mean, he never has the handle until he's just about to put the pass on time and on target. Woo-hoo. There's a lot of NBA scouts in the building. 22. You think their eyes lit up at that?
He's still a work in progress. Just a sophomore from Cairo. We asked him last year who are the best players from Egypt, and he gave us a couple names of people we never heard of.
Yeah, said he wants to be the first Egyptian to play in the NBA. And he has made, you were talking about Onuaku's strides as a post player footwork. You could say the same for Mahmoud, and you've got to give Ralph Willard an awful lot of credit. Works diligently with those interior guys.
Oh, that rebound again by Mitchell. He's guy to go yank that one down. Johnson's out of bounds. Good defense by the photographer. I think that was a charge. Bryce Johnson trying to make sure the gentleman is okay.
Did you see they banned the sideline camera guy in NBA games? Too many people getting hurt.
Really?
You think about how close those guys are, Sean. It's amazing there are not more injuries on any level of basketball.
Mitchell for 3. He can soar to the rim, and he's a good three-point shooter as well. So far this year, hasn't shot it well, but they believe he will.
He's been the difference in terms of energy and aggressiveness and assertiveness.
Justin Jackson, one-hand little push shot that drops.
That's the guy I think has another level to get to, and I think that he's sort of a stoic personality, but I wonder about his confidence. Where is he? Because I think he is a big-time talent.
He's struggled to shoot the ball lately, including from the free throw line. He defended very well there on Lee. Then the pass back to Snyder goes into the backcourt, and it's a violation against the Cardinals.
We have seen a couple of spectacular plays already. I don't know which one to pick, but we'll start with Anas Mahmoud. The 7-footer in transition gets a hold of it, places it behind the back. No answer at the rim. Louisville playing.
Sean McDonough, Doris Burke, Kaylee Hartung back in Louisville, the home, of course, of the Louisville Slugger Bat Company. We thank them for those great Big Monday souvenir bats. We've been all hoops Wednesday night on ESPN. ESPN2 has a twist, the crossover. Our college announcers over on the NBA side. The NBA guys back in college. Jeff Van Gundy with Dickie V for Notre Dame Miami. Jay Billis and Doug Collins doing Warriors and Wizards. That's always fun. The crossover night. Wednesday night on ESPN and ESPN2.
Well, those are 4 great announced teams, but I guarantee you Jay Williams and Mark Jackson are going to have a little more flavor than the other 3.
No doubt. Donovan Mitchell called for his second foul, so the fouls becoming a problem for the Cardinals. Onawaku's been on the bench for a while with 2. Mitchell has 2. Spalding has 2. And this one kicks it into the 1-and-1 for Bryce Johnson. 79% for the year from the line.
So Snyder comes back in, and I think he'll miss Mitchell's sort of energy and the way he's attacked the rim fearlessly. Get the steady Snyder. Can somebody else now pick up sort of that tone setting? Because I thought Donovan Mitchell's pressure in that zone was good as well.
This is the largest lead of the game. Carolina by 6 as we start Big Monday. Alone underneath, Johnson turned it into a very tough shot. And it's finally yanked away by Kennedy Meeks, and then he's fouled.
You know, Carolina comes with opportunistic pressure. He knew the guys were closing. He felt Bryce and Justin Jackson. I mean, you just go attack the rim, Sean. Try to get to the free throw line.
Frustrated by the misses, and then he commits his second foul, the 4th Louisville player with 2 fouls. There's Kennedy Meeks at the free throw line. 71% for the year. And it's yanked down by Trey Lewis out of Garfield Heights, Ohio. Played at Cleveland State. They played Cleveland State last year. And he certainly got the coaching staff's attention. Spalding. 7th turnover of the game for Louisville.
That's a young turnover. That's a player in a rush. Spalding, I think, is going to have a terrific career. He's a big-time athlete. And think about this kid in high school never got the ball, Sean. They wanted him to be a defender, shot blocker, rebounder. So he's just figuring things out right now.
Spalding's from right here in Louisville, Trinity High School, fine high school program. He was 2 times first team All-State. Berry through a lot of traffic. Joel James, the tip from behind. Spalding hits the deck, and he got it off to the new point guard, Anas Mahmoud.
Yeah.
Lee hit hard, didn't get the shot to drop, but Isaiah Hicks is called for the North Carolina foul. And both teams are over the limit. Now it's the 2nd personal on Hicks, a junior from Oxford, North Carolina.
And Lee specializes in this. He's just under 5 free throws a game. He's going to hurt you from distance, getting to the rack or the free throw line.
Excellent free throw shooter, 87% for the year. He scored 1,531 points for Drexel in just 3 years. He played 3 years and is still number 10 all time for the Drexel Dragons in career points.
Numbers down a little bit, but I think it speaks to he and to Lewis and who they must be in terms of their character, because for 2 graduate transfers to be your leading scorers, it takes buy-in from them, buy-in from the guys who were here in the program first. And from everything we've been told, great work ethic, great character guys, complete buy-in.
Yeah, the sports information director of the great Kenny Klein in Louisville told us that Lee and Lewis are terrific kids, and we spoke with Ralph Willard, one of the assistant coaches, before the game. It's great to see him back at Louisville, and he concurred. Another North Carolina foul. This is on Luke May, who's a bit deeper down the bench ordinarily for Coach Williams. Plays about 7 minutes per game. That graduate transfer rule, if you have eligibility left, you can leave and go play someplace else without sitting out. That really has changed basketball quite a bit. Snyder misses, and Spalding tried to put it back all at once. Mahmoud there to drop it home. Because now schools are really identifying players like Lee and Lewis who might be looking to play somewhere else for 1 year. And that's almost become another aspect of recruiting in addition to what you're trying to do with high school play.
You have to be on top of it. Until the NCAA decides maybe that it's not something they want for the game, you have to do it, Sean. Look at Connecticut. You've got 2 starters in your lineup that are graduate transfers.
Shot clock running out. Jackson missed a 3. It went out of bounds in the corner. The officials looking at each other, and it's North Carolina ball with a full shot clock.
Do you like the rule, Sean? That's something I'd ask.
I think it's great in a situation like this for guys, if you're Lee and Lewis, a chance to go to a quote-unquote higher level, experience this for 1 year.
Correct.
But I think it's a little rough for the schools that lose guys like that who put so much into their development. Bryce Johnson with a clear push-off. He didn't argue, just dropped the ball and trotted to the other end of the court. His second personal foul, and it is the bonus.
Boy, we expected the pace to be up and down here, but the fouls are just grinding this to a halt.
And I think the other part of that graduate transfer thing, Doris, that could be a little unsavory is it does invite sort of the idea that schools may make it known, hey, if you're interested in going someplace else next year, we might have a spot for you. I'm not saying that that happens, but reasonable people, I think, would assume that it does.
No question about it. There's no question about it. All kinds of unsavory things happen in recruiting. And you're right. I mean, my instinct is always to give kids as many opportunities as possible. And you're right. You're talking about 2 guys who are at a completely different level in Lee and Lewis. And this, the bright lights of this, the opportunity to expose themselves to 22 NBA scouts tonight. And coaches simply have to make it part of what they do.
May sneaks underneath, and he scores. Averages under a bucket per game. Freshman from Huntersville, North Carolina. Mahmoud. Did everything but score. And again, showing the ball handling skills. Good anticipation by Damian Lee. Pulls up for a 3. May blocked by Mahmoud. Lee the push. Snyder wants it on the wing. Offensive foul. Lee ran over Pinson. First foul on Damian Lee.
Boy, when they haven't been fouling, there have been some pretty spectacular plays. How about Lee? The anticipation on the long outlet pass. Understands he's got rebounders running the floor and makes them pay.
Just that. And the Fighting Jay Wheels at home got a good battle going. The Duke women in a battle right now, knocking off Notre Dame. That's coming up, Sean, at the half.
Wow. All right, Carl, thank you. Fans of these 2 teams peacefully coexisting here at the KFC Yum Center. National championship winning programs led by Hall of Fame coaches. A great fan base. This is one of my favorite buildings in America. The building is alive every time you walk in here.
Doesn't matter if you're talking about Louisville fans or Kentucky fans. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they are immersed in the milieu of their teams.
That's a word I never got from Jay Billis, I can tell you that.
And I think they despise one another, too.
We got a taste of that as soon as we landed last night. The nice gentleman at the National Rental Car counter said, "You here to do the Louisville game?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'll give you a car anyway, even though I'm a UK fan."
Did Carl Ravitch say the Duke women knocked off Notre Dame?
I believe he did.
Wow. Hey, that's a Duke team that fell out of the polls on the women's side for the first time in a long time. Obviously, the Duke men with some injuries.
That was the big news of the day when the poll came out today. First time in 8 years, Duke is not in the top 25 after that loss last week.
So getting word that Notre Dame is trailing by 2. It's not over. I thought it would be a little early for that game to be over.
ESPN News is not yet ready to project the winner in that game.
That's right.
Doing our part to get in the spirit of the Iowa caucuses. Governor of Kentucky's here tonight. So it's a big night when Doris Burke comes to town. The governor shows up.
Yeah, that's enough political talk. We don't want to get ourselves
we don't want to get in
trouble.
We are nonpartisan in every way. Lewis. He's from the Cleveland area. Played at Cleveland State. He's friendly with Terry Rozier. So Terry Rozier, of course, left after last year. Went to the NBA, drafted by the Celtics. He helped make the connection for Lewis to come from Cleveland State to Louisville. Nate Britt called for his first foul. Both teams were over the limit about an hour ago now, it seems. Rare miss for Trey Lewis. 83% for the year from the line.
It's interesting watching the Louisville guards try to navigate these hard hedges and traps out front that North Carolina puts on you. When they come with a trap shown, they're changing the direction of the Louisville guards, making it really hard for them to turn the corner.
Two and a half to go in the half. Meeks, nice pass underneath the shorty. Missed by Pinson, who worked hard to get it back but could not. Snyder looks for help. 3 out of the corner. No good. Out of bounds, and they'll keep it with Louisville. Dangadell missed the 3 out of the corner. The freshman, who's come on lately, was a start at the beginning of the year, then hurt his knee. Sprained a knee in practice, missed 8 games, and he's really just still working back into form.
I like that Lee made the extra pass.
Wow. Damian Lee. First player in the game to double digits with 11, and Louisville has come from 6 down to tie it. Offensive foul. Mahmoud took the hit from Kennedy Meeks. Second foul on Kennedy Meeks.
So in between fouls, as I said, it feels like it's a foul or a spectacular play. He turns the corner, has to create a tough shot. Look at where he goes from one side to the other, and enough English to finish that. This is a big-time special play. Through traffic, 3 bodies underneath the rim, and somehow it finds its way through.
We have seen some high-level athletic performances here tonight. Louisville trying to capture the lead for the first time since it was 9-6 with 13.5 to go in the half. 1.5 in the half, and Mahmoud shot it over the basket. He's had a variety of things happen with him here in the first half.
He has, but he can't get into a wrestling match with Joel James. Their physique's just too different. But I'm telling you, this kid, he's got to keep working, and he's got to get strength and build his body. And when he does those 2 things, you better look out.
Nate Brett having trouble getting their offense started. Not any longer. Pinson a strong drive, and he was fouled at the rim by Adele, his first. Both teams in the double bonus.
Well, I say big time drive. Poor angle defensively by Dang. Gets beat. Great recognition by Pinson to attack that low put.
Pinson, sophomore from Greensboro. Carolina by a point, approaching 1 minute to go. North Carolina winners of 12 in a row. That's the second longest active winning streak in the country. Division I. Stony Brook has won 13 straight. Nice shot by Adele. And Louisville has the lead for the first time in nearly 13 minutes. Jackson dribbled into a tough spot and had it taken away by Trey Lewis. Rick Pitino trying to get the attention of Trey Lewis on the wing to call a play, and so loud in here Lewis had no idea the coach was yelling at him.
He's still trying to get to Dang. He's trying to clear him out, but this clock is dwindling. You got to go.
Yeah, this is going to get, nope, shot clock violation. Looked like for a moment they might just barely get it off. Well, the Carolina bench thought it was halftime and started heading to the locker room. C.B. McGrath, I believe. They're having a chuckle on the sideline, but he was well on his way to the locker room. Still has good speed, reminiscent of his playing days. North Carolina timeout, trying to take advantage of the 2.7 left in the half. Well, they'll have to hurry, but Carolina has 2.7 remaining in the half to try to get something done.
And Louisville will put Mahmoud on the inbounder, try to impede his vision. Where Carolina catches this will go a long way in dictating the kind of shot they get.
And Rick Pitino saw the alignment and decided to call a timeout, set up his defense. Well, we want to remind you, Wednesday night on ESPN, a lot of fun. We call it the crossover. It'll be on both ESPN and ESPN2. College announcers working an NBA game, the NBA guys. Going back to college, Jeff Van Gundy and Dickie V. If I was the play-by-play guy on that game, we wouldn't need a comb. That's for sure. They'll be together for Notre Dame and Miami. Jay Billis and Doug Collins, Wizards and Warriors Wednesday night. Speaking of the NBA, 20 NBA people here, scouts and GMs.
We'll get Roy Williams fired up talking about our green room guys.
No, let's not do that. Into half court. Jackson lets it fly. Not bad, but not good. Damian Lee rallies from a poor performance on Saturday against Virginia. He and Lewis combined for 10 points total. Lee had 11 himself in this first half. Good one at the break. The Jeep halftime report, Carl, Jay, and Seth. Gentlemen.
It is a good one.
We welcome you back to Big Monday from Louisville, Kentucky, where the 19th ranked Louisville Cardinals are hosting the second ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. It's the ACC on ESPN. Dorisburg, let's take a look at tonight's Northwestern Mutual planning for success.
Well, after a 2-for-7 6-point performance in the last game against Virginia, we anticipated a bounce back from Mr. Damian Lee. He beats the trap, then he makes the steal, gets him an easy-looking three off of that steal. So we expected their guards to bounce back in a big way. Lee led them to that. What I'm curious about is whether Carolina gets to their strength, which is their interior game in the second half.
Well, let's hear what their coach had to say a moment ago with Kaylee Hartung.
Well, Coach, the fouls outnumber the field goals so far in this game. With Louisville in the zone, what do you want to see?
Well, we got to get better movement. They went man sometimes. We still didn't get movement. We got to get the basketball inside by dribble or pass. But the biggest thing is we got to compete more on the backboards. They had 9 points on offensive rebounds to our 4. And, you know, they can't be conscientious objectors. You got to be willing to play out there. And hopefully we'll make a shot every now and then, too.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
They turn it over in their first possession of the half. Justin Jackson lost it, and Damian Lee scores. That gives him 13 points for the game, and he's gone over 1,900 for his career, 1901, including his time at Drexel. Marcus Page. Bill Berry open, way off from 3. And Carolina now 1 out of 10 from behind the three-point line tonight. Among all major conference teams, only South Florida gets a lower percentage of its points from the three-point line than North Carolina. Onawaku.
We talked about this in the first half. Both of these teams do a great job outscoring you inside the paint, but thus far it's been Louisville's advantage inside.
Kennedy Meeks, Marcus Page. Shot that one confidently. Marcus Page now 1 for 6 from behind the three-point line, but that is his North Carolina record, 254th career three-point field goal. They've been hard to come by lately for Marcus Page. Onawaku. Limited minutes in the first half due to foul trouble. Missed the shorty, and Page on the run up, put it high off the glass.
That's a big swing right there. Boy, oh boy, you miss a chippy at the passes at the rim, leaves you right where you need to be, and then the leak out by Marcus. Does that get him started? Back-to-back buckets to start the half.
And another milestone, just made the career three-point record. Now he just passed Mitch Kupchak on the all-time scoring list in North Carolina for 23rd place. Page, 1,611 career points, and then the answer at the other end for Quentin Snyder. And both teams a bit more crisp on offense, or, depending on how you look at it, shaky on defense. Johnson's bucket gets a timeout called by Rick Pitino.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's and Sprint.
You heard Seth Greenberg talk about this in studio. North Carolina typically does a lot of its damage in the paint. Can they get one in transition in the paint here?
Page the steal, he got it back and missed the shorty, then knocked it away from Chinanu Onawaku. Jackson couldn't score in close, and there is a Louisville foul on Donovan Mitchell, I believe. No, it's on Onawaku, and that is his third.
Does that make Rick Pitino get him subbed out? He's shaking his head, Coach Pitino over there.
Justin Jackson made the first free throw. Well, for now, Onawaku is going to remain in.
Well, you just don't. Marcus Page still out of sorts in terms of making shots, right? That layup, those are plays when he's at his best. You never see him miss.
Quick catch and shoot, beautifully done by Damian Lee.
It's amazing how much easier shots come when the ball enters the painted area and then kicks out to a shooter.
Bryce Johnson from the free throw line. He's had a quiet night. 8 points now.
Well, the guys in the studio were talking about the matchup zone. Remember, when the ball goes into the teeth, into the paint, they go man-to-man. Bryce was strictly one-on-one at the free throw line, makes a nice jump shot. So Louisville mixes defenses depending on where the ball is on the floor.
Snyder, nice drive, finished with the left hand, and back and forth they go. The offense is really picking up here in the second half. Blocking foul called as Jackson went strong to the goal, and Damian Lee called for the foul.
How about the strong drive by Snyder? Again, a poor closeout. He recognizes closing defender is coming hard, so he goes right to the rack. And this is the blocking foul. I like it. I think it's a good call.
I thought it was too.
Stop it now. You're gonna have me all out of sorts agreeing with these officials.
Justin Jackson made the first. The shooting struggles have included the free throw line for him. Matter of fact, he went 0 for 4 from the foul line against Boston College on Saturday. He's 4 for 4 tonight, so perhaps that was just a brief pickup. He came into tonight 60% for the year from the line. Mitchell. Onuaku. Mitchell again.
What did Roy say to Kaylee? We can't be conscientious objectors. They're still getting beat off the offensive glass.
Johnson couldn't catch the pass. He thought he was being interfered with. And it gets us to a media timeout. Two great programs locked in a tight one early in the second half.
Coming into this game, Rick Pitino made sure to tell everybody that Carolina's up-tempo pace played right into their biggest weakness, his team's transition defense. But that transition game is what had him most pleased at the half. The other thing he made sure to bring to everybody's attention, deflections. An unofficial stat, if you will, as you guys know, Doris and Sean, 16 deflections for his team at the half. That's not a number I can find on my stat sheet.
Well, he has been after this team for the lack of quality defense. He said, we've only played one good half of defense, and that was against Pittsburgh. I'm saying to Ralph Willard, he's second in the country in field goal percentage defense. He said, you know, Rick. Nice pass. You know, Rick.
The defensive numbers on the screen we mentioned earlier. Most coaches would kill for that, but they've set a very high standard with that pressing and trapping defense, frenetic for so many years, so beautifully executed. But as you said earlier, Doris, a young Louisville team, the freshmen learning, the transfers learning how to play in this defense. Kennedy Meeks scores inside for North Carolina.
Correct. That matchup zone, there are a lot of moving parts to it. It has to be a lot of communication. You have to bump guard to forward. There's so much to be learned.
Snyder, nifty, then missed the shorty, and Kennedy Meeks took it down. Page really guarded tightly by Damian Lee. 10 on the shot clock for North Carolina. Page with some room. Left-handed scoop wouldn't go. Wow. The crowd wanted a foul on Kennedy Meeks, or at least the ball for Louisville, and they didn't get either one of them.
3 on the shot clock, and Brian Kersey saying that it went off the head of the Louisville player, Donovan Mitchell.
Only 3 seconds on the clock, and a shot clock violation. 12 Carolina turnovers.
So they are battling, and Ralph Willard said to me before the game, I said, Ralph, how is it that Rick is complaining about your defense? He said, you know, Rick, if there's a hair out of place on the Mona Lisa, he's going to let you know it on the defensive end of the floor.
Well, of course, the head coach at Western Kentucky, Pittsburgh, Holy Cross, and a longtime great friend of Rick Pitino, their Long Island roots. Of course, son Kevin Willard, the coach at Seton Hall. They're having a nice start to the season. It's good to see Ralph back. He told me before the game night it's just for this year, and then he's going to head back toward retirement. But I know Rick is delighted to have him. Spalding, too strong. He stuck with it. Lost it on the way up. It'll be Louisville ball.
There's some other guys who are delighted to have Ralph Willard. Mahmoud, Onuaku, Ray Spalding, because he has undeniably influenced that core of front court guys.
Even without Mango Mathiang out with the broken foot, they still have size on this team. Mont Stockman hasn't played, but he's a 7-footer. Mahmoud's a 7-footer. Onuaku 6'10". They hope Mathiang isn't all that far away.
Starting to do some work.
Boot off, crutches off, or gone, I should say, and he'll begin the task of rehabbing. Had a screw inserted in that broken foot in December. Mahmoud.
Wow.
He was fouled.
Tell you what, do you love the 7-footer who can make the catch square, do a little rip-through move? The little rip-through move on Joel James saying, son, you can't stay in front of me. I've got too much dribbling ability.
He's a work in progress. Came to this country from Cairo, Egypt. Played at West Oaks Academy in Orlando, Florida. Played just 1 year there. He's gaining weight, adding muscle.
I will say this, I think Rick Pitino is good. You talked about it. We've got 2 Hall of Fame coaches here. One of the staples of Louisville's program and Rick's tenure as a head coach, regardless of where he's been, BU, Providence College, the ability to make guys better. To have them enter at one level and become completely different players.
Well, they spend so much time on individual skills work. Whoa. Hicks went for the two-handed flush and could not convert. Lewis could not shake the defense on the perimeter with Kenny Williams, and a nice finish with the left for Anas Mahmoud.
Well, that's a big-time move right there. And he's given up some weight and girth to Joel James. Just puts him in the spin cycle. Mahmoud, go ahead.
Mahmoud a block. Hicks. Foul called. Might have been on Spalding. It is on Spalding. That's his third. So he and Onawaku have both been called for 3 fouls in the game.
Well, Anas Mahmoud, again, he has got to try to attack the body and then release from the body of Joel James. Just get a little separation.
Isaiah Hicks, the free throw shooter. Bryce Johnson returns. And Joel James goes to the bench.
I get the feeling Roy Williams is trying to find the lineup that's going to be effective. And I think you have to credit a ton the Louisville defense, keeping Carolina out of transition, competing on the glass, and making Carolina execute in a half court, whether it's against their man or against that matchup zone. And that matchup zone morphs to a man when the ball enters the paint. So there's a lot to figure out for Carolina.
Lewis blocked by Marcus Page. Nate Britt on the court again for North Carolina. Chance to tie or take the lead. Johnson fouled. And a chance for a 3-point play and the lead for North Carolina.
Yeah, just a terrific job by Marcus Page. And what did Kaylee say before the game? That we've got to find strength from Marcus Page, understanding they're struggling. So he says, I'm going to attack the rim, and I'm going to go put it in the hands of the guy who's been our most consistent scorer all year. And how about the adjustment by Bryce Johnson? Beautifully done. If they're going to walk out of here with a win, you've got to believe the fingerprints of these 2 guys is going to be all over this game.
Johnson wound up with it back. And again, Mitchell just skying to pull it down. He's just 6'3". But boy, can he get up.
Wow.
Game tied for the 9th time. There have been 10 lead changes. Largest lead, just 6 for North Carolina. Donovan Mitchell puts Louisville back up by 2 with 12 minutes to go.
This kid is fearless, Sean. He's seeing pick and roll, and he's saying, I can get by, and I can get to where I want to go.
Athletic genes for Donovan Mitchell. His dad was a professional baseball player and now works in community outreach for the New York Mets. Snyder. Awkward shot, drifting left, threw it back up toward the rim with the right hand, and it was short. Britt did a lot of work to get open. The shot wouldn't drop. Out of bounds. Louisville ball, and Roy Williams, it's his turn to protest. He didn't think they got that one right.
Remember, this is a Carolina team that averages 85 points per game, just under 86. Louisville doing the job on defense, and Mitchell again off the bench to give him a lift.
Louisville by 2 on Big Monday. Let's take a look at tonight's Wendy's Wooden Watch.
Well, you can see Marcus Page continues to struggle from distance. Bryce Johnson 3 rebounds away from yet another double-double. Damian Lee came over to you and I pregame. We said to him, you guys ready for a bounce back? Because it was a manhandling by Virginia. He had the sense he was prepared to play.
When Roy Williams said that before the game, he felt after the poor performance by Louisville Saturday, they'd be ready to go and give Carolina their best shot. Onuaku scores inside. The lead is 4 for Louisville, their largest lead 5 in the opening seconds of this second half. Tough pass, but it got through. Berry to Hicks for a nice basket inside.
I like that Hicks is getting minutes because he's opportunistic around the rim, has a good feel for when to cut, how to play off guys who are dribble driving. Generating offense has been problematic against a Louisville team #1 in the ACC in field goal percentage defense. Nice job by Hicks relocating. And then Schneider, who is just outstanding as a assist to turnover guy, puts it on time and on target for Onuaku.
Justin Jackson called for the last foul. Too frisky as he was guarding a cutter. His second foul. 3. What a night for Damian Lee. 19 for Lee, and the crowd quieted by a clutch 3 for Nate Britt. He came in just 2 for his last 11 from beyond the arc, 36% for the year. Midway through the second half, tight throughout. Lee feeling it. Mitchell will try. And now a chance to tie or take the lead again for North Carolina. Britt, the miss. Johnson hit the floor but couldn't corral it for the heels. Lee still wants it, still feeling it. And Louisville has matched its largest lead of the night. 20th of points. 20 and 22, 21 to 22, pardon me. 7th 20-point game of the year. And a foul called. Onuaku was contesting the shot by Johnson. The foul's on Damian Lee, his 3rd.
Well, why Bryce Johnson closes out, or Jackson closes a little bit late on Damian Lee. This was the previous one where Bryce Johnson comes out, his hands are down. You've got one of the more dangerous shooters and scorers in the country on the catch and shoot. You've got to show more passion defensively than that, Bryce.
Bryce Johnson missed the free throw. Already 3 times the ACC Player of the Week this season, Bryce Johnson. Plenty of season remaining. A tough schedule left for North Carolina. Beginning with tonight, they have 10 games left in the season, 6 of them on the road.
Against quality competition.
Yep, they start to play the top of the league. They still have both of their games left against Duke. Onuaku with great position underneath, took the hit from Isaiah Hicks, and he'll shoot a pair. And that's 3 fouls on Hicks. North Carolina with a 2-game lead. They have a great chance to open up a lot of space on the rest of the conference if they could win tonight. And the closest teams to them would all have 3 losses. There are, as you see, 4 6-3 teams, and Miami is 5-3.
A Clemson team that's probably been the surprise of the league. Fascinating to me is watching Pittsburgh play, because when you think about when Coach Howland took over that Pittsburgh program and they're in the Big East, took them a while to adjust to become a defensive team. Now all of a sudden Jamie Dixon's got as good an offensive team as he's had in his tenure there. So a little bit adjusting.
Onawaku started shooting free throws underhanded over the summer, and he has improved his percentage. 59% this year. He was in the high 40s last season, 47%.
Somewhere with Barry smiling.
You know, I like it. I think a lot of more guys should do this, but it's almost a pride thing. They just don't want to do it.
Correct.
All right, shoot him overhand from now on. Henson, Page with Berry, Hicks, and Johnson for North Carolina.
Look at the activity and communication in this defense by Louisville.
Berry out of control. He was trying to wrap it around to Hicks, and he threw it over the end line instead.
Roy Williams was talking about getting penetration into the paint, either on the drive or on the pass. But if you're going to enter the teeth of that defense, you better do it under control and not leave your feet before you know where you're going with the ball.
Berry's been so good with the ball all season long. He had a stretch of 3 straight games entering tonight when he did not commit a turnover. That's tough to do against anybody, but particularly in this league. The 3 did not fall for Trey Lewis. They would have opened up an 8-point lead had that fallen. Under 8 minutes to go. Carolina ball down by 5. They've won 12 in a row. Number 2 in the country in the AP. Number 1 in the coaches poll. And very close to number 1 Oklahoma in the media poll. Hicks, tough shot, and Onawaku way up to pull it down.
We're going to break down the film if you're Carolina, and you're going to look at an awful lot of contested shots, Sean. It's been great ball pressure, a lot of communication.
Lewis credited with a 2-point field goal. That was a 2-point field goal, we believe, for Louisville, and it's 58-51.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by DirecTV. Don't just watch TV, DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
In Louisville's loss to Virginia, they had no ball reversal and had 4 shots. Tonight, similar theme. No ball reversal, just 3 for 14. Look at what happens when the ball does change sides of the floor. You get better shots, Sean. It translates to better field goal percentage. And as this game is worn on, they get a tremendous amount of freedom to shoot threes, and their confidence is rising.
Crowd alive in this 22,000 seat arena right on the banks of the Ohio River in downtown Louisville, Kentucky.
Anxious to see where Carolina goes on this possession. Again, playing in the half court. Again, having to execute against this tough defense.
Louisville shot 54% in this half to open up the 7-point lead. Page, tough shot, made it.
Wow. That's a big-time shot. We talked about it. They draw strength from him. And he has affected winning in the midst of his shooting slump, but he's got to stay mentally tough here and keep leading.
9 points for Page. Page still just 3 for 11 from the floor, even with this make.
Well, would you want to have to make your money or your living on that kind of shot? That's a tough one. Degree of difficulty.
With the 9 points tonight, 1,615 career points. He's just tied Hubert Davis on that Carolina bench, our former ESPN colleague, for 22nd all time in scoring at North Carolina. When you're in the top 25 of anything at North Carolina with all the great players that they've had, you've accomplished something special. North Carolina fouls on Kennedy Meeks, the 3rd on him and the 6th on the team, so no shooting. Here's Kaylee Hartung.
Well, Sean, it was interesting talking to Coach Williams before the game, as he explained even when Marcus Page's shot isn't falling, other aspects of his game don't suffer because he is mentally tough. He does have that awareness, and 2 of those 4 games in which his shots weren't falling, he was the best defensive player on the floor. But that's how this team is able to draw strength from him, whether he's making baskets or not.
Nice block by Bryce Johnson, but Carolina couldn't control it. And I think the officials are going to talk about the shot clock, which reset, and perhaps it should not have.
How many ticks were on that clock when that block happened?
I think they were mid-clock somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure. That's why they have the replay capability. You saw Roy Williams there as he walked over to chat. Roy's knees are really bothering him. Yeah, it resets from 24 to 30. And the officials will have to take a look at that. But boy, it's been tough to see Roy the last few weeks. He had both knees operated on months ago after he missed a step last summer. And now he's looking at the prospect of having to have both knees replaced. He's wearing a brace on one knee now, and he's in a lot of pain.
He's taking injections
into his knee.
Yeah, and we'll have another one in another couple of weeks. It is not fun. He's battled some health issues. Remember the year he battled vertigo pretty badly. I remember doing a game, Sean, and he literally took a knee because he was going to go down.
And with somebody who's battled vertigo, I can relate to what an unpleasant experience that is. Hoops, Wednesday night, the crossover. If you haven't already put it on your calendar, do it now. Why wouldn't you want to? Van Gundy and Vitale together. Broadcasting the Notre Dame Miami game while Jay Billis crosses over into the NBA to work with Doug Collins. So there's a chance Jay will learn something there. And that's all Wednesday night, the announcer crossover. Nicely done. Trey Lewis down the right side of the lane. The lead 7 for Louisville with under 6 minutes to go. Page with the much taller Spalding out contesting. Bryce Johnson. (13 and 8) for Johnson, averaging 17 and 10 for the year. Certainly a major candidate for Player of the Year in the ACC and national honors as well. Snyder underneath, count it! Great catch and score by Onuaku, who was fouled as well.
All of the dribble driving that's occurring with Louisville, getting by that initial defender, putting your guys on the back line in a deficit, and visible frustration from Kennedy Meeks because he allows Onuaku to get close to the rim. And yes, we see you working hard in that weight room.
The foul on Meeks is 4th, so he is the first player in the game on either side. One foul away from disqualification on Onuaku. The underhanded free throw. He made some big strides over the summer playing for Team USA in the Under-19 World Championships in Greece for Sean Miller. Bad pass, Spalding intercepted. Page defending. Page with great hands, kept it alive and winds up with it. Jackson with a decision to make. Opts for the shot, and well done.
Just slithery. Yeah, that guy, he knows how to play. He attacks the inside foot of that defender. Nicely done.
And 12 for Jackson, right on his average. Sophomore from Tomball, Texas. Spalding. Well guarded by Jackson. 10 on the shot clock. Spalding again. Yes.
Terrific job by Damian Lee not to settle for the three. Really good job to get a closer opportunity.
Page probes the lane. Too strong. Bryce Johnson trying to muscle his way back up, and he walks. 15 turnovers for North Carolina. They average 10.5 per game. They average 85.8 points per game. A long way to go to get to that number. Not going to happen, certainly, unless we get to overtime.
Boy, Rick Pitino finds fault in this defensive effort. Boy, he's looking for perfection.
Carolina comes to trap. Kenny Williams in the game, perhaps with that in mind, from Roy Williams. Offensive foul. You mentioned it earlier, Onawaku foul prone, and a lot of it is moving screens, and he's really hot as he heads to the media timeout.
Now you've got a building that senses a big-time upset. Damian Lee, big bounce back. One of the Hall of Fame coaches doing work. Mahmoud, everybody into it. If you're a Cardinal, you're working.
John, back to you guys.
Okay, Carl, thanks. The big recent development, the fourth foul on Chinanu Onawaku for a moving screen. Doris, we got to look at it during the break. Didn't look like he made any contact. We'll show the audience in a moment.
Had a right to be frustrated because I did not think it was a foul.
The big call, too. Jackson, too strong with the one-hander, and Damian Lee the rebound. Louisville with a chance to take the first double-digit lead for either team tonight. Trey Lewis, they're looking to trap. Louisville running the clock down under 10. And Snyder bumped by Hicks. 8th team foul. It'll be a 1-and-1. 4th personal on Isaiah Hicks. And here's the Onawaku 4th foul.
It's just not a foul. In fact, he jumps out of the way, and it's a huge call.
Looks like from this angle, there's no contact at all.
Correct. It's a bad call. He's visibly upset and has a right to be. What you lose, obviously, is one of their better rebounders. Mahmoud's been terrific. He's got length to protect at the rim, some shot blocking ability, but completely different element to the game than Onawaku.
3 minutes to go. That was a big miss at the front end of the 1-and-1 by Quentin Snyder. Mahmoud, good defense, blocked the shot, and Louisville couldn't save it. Great effort in the corner by Damian Lee.
That's where his length is a factor. He said he's a shot blocker. It was an outstanding trap. You know, he comes over because he recognizes Hicks can overpower and outsize Damian Lee.
3 blocks for Anas Mahmoud. Page will play it in. North Carolina, their season low is 67 points. That was in one of their 2 losses. The loss at Northern Iowa back on November 21st in their 4th game of the year.
Mike Eads having a conversation with Jackson.
.16 to shoot for the Heels. Page was out of bounds, apparently. Snyder. Again, North Carolina trying to trap Page. Boy, he has quick hands. Slapped it away, but unfortunately for Marcus, it went out of bounds. 20 to shoot for Louisville, leading by 8.
Here's the Page play. He came in from out of bounds, and that's where they're saying can't do it.
First player to touch it. Boy, tenacious trapping. They broke through. Spalding, good hands that time by Jackson. Mahmoud, the tallest man on the court, had it on his fingertips, couldn't control it. Page dumps it off for Johnson, who was fouled.
You come back with Onuaku for some physical toughness on the boards.
Trey Lewis called for his second foul. Both teams are over the limit, so Johnson 79% for the year from the line.
It's a drastic improvement. Remember, this guy was 57%, then 62%. This is exactly why you work on it, Sean. Get yourself better than he was as a freshman and sophomore.
So Louisville's had some chances to make him much more comfortable. They're letting perhaps the best team in the country hang around. Johnson trying to get them a point closer. 6-point game, 2:21 to go. Ooh, Onuaku colliding with Page in the backcourt again. And it's interesting, Doris, because Onuaku's been very vocal about his frustration of being called to moving screens, and he said he's made a conscious effort not to move at all anytime he's been screening. He's bumping pretty hard with Johnson in there. Lewis fell down and turned it over. Jackson from Page. It's a 4-point game with 1:55 to go, and Rick Pitino calls timeout.
Can feel the intensity level and the pressure from Carolina building. Good ball pressure. Does a nice job sitting down, staying in front of Trey Lewis, and then especially where the turnover occurs, right? You're at a deficit. It's open floor turnover, only one defender back. You've got numbers. And Justin Jackson quietly has put together a terrific evening for Carolina.
Louisville, several empty trips. They haven't scored since 4:28 remained in the game. We're down to 1:55. It's an explosive North Carolina team. They entered tonight having scored 80 plus in 17 of their 21 games this year.
You wonder, does Carolina apply some pressure here in the backcourt? What has happened is Trey Lewis has taken command of the basketball and basically pushed everybody out of the way. On the catch, if he gets it, I would believe he's going to send his teammates forward.
They do bring pressure in the backcourt. It's been effective. And they've had to do it out of necessity here late in the second half. Onuaku again moves to screen. Strong drive to the bucket. And a much needed hoop for Louisville from Trey Lewis. Barry to Page. Johnson, Jackson, and Pinson. Page, no. And the rebound lost by Onuaku. Jackson got it back to Barry, who missed the three. Bryce Johnson, the offensive rebound. They're not conscientious objectors now for Coach Williams. In fact, they continue to pound inside. And Jackson with a chance for three.
Well, he's just so quiet of demeanor, and I love seeing the emotion in that play. He has been assertive and aggressive. You don't see many times Onuaku get stripped. And how about the pass? Shielding off Ray Spalding for the end one.
Spalding's fouled his fourth. Jackson tipped out by Pinson and then stolen back by Quentin Snyder. A huge play.
They flattened it out, came high ball screen on the last possession. I got to believe they're going to use clock. Remember, no 5-second closely guarded.
Still 12 to shoot, down to 50 seconds left in regulation. Lewis, tough runner. Spalding tipped it out of bounds. North Carolina ball with 42.6 to go, down by 4. And just one timeout left for Roy Williams. There's a veteran team on the floor for Carolina.
And Louisville goes man.
Berry fouled at the beginning of the drive. Snyder called for his first, the 9th team foul, so this will be a 1-and-1 and the last. North Carolina will shoot 2 the rest of the way. Tar Heels have been called for 8 team fouls. Nothing but net on the first one for the sophomore from Apopka, Florida.
2 Louisville timeouts, 1 for Carolina. Free throws, some misses on both sides.
An 11-point edge from the free throw line for the Heels. They're within 2.
5-second differential between shot and game clock.
Do you play it all the way down if you're North Carolina? Just defend?
I like more possessions, to be honest with you. I don't have the patience to do it.
Page, looked like he was trying to give the foul there, and that'll be the last 1-and-1. First foul on Page, 9th team foul. And both teams will be in the double bonus the rest of the way. Anas Mahmoud returns for Louisville, and Onawaku with the 4 fouls goes to the bench. So here's Trey Lewis at the line, one of their best, 83% for the year. 1-and-1. And now Rick Pitino will use one of his 2 remaining timeouts. And a huge free throw coming up, a chance to make it a 4-point lead for Louisville if Lewis can convert with his second free throw.
Well, what a night for Damian Lee. And this is a guy who was 2 for 7 against Virginia. Really disappointed. This was the early look. He set the tone with that drive early. The steal and the 3 in transition. And then he got percolating from 3. Some late closeouts by Carolina. And he made them pay on virtually every single one. Now, I got to believe, as you take a look at his numbers for the night, got to believe Rick Pitino has made a point of make or miss what exactly he wants. It'll be very interesting to see, Sean. He makes this free throw. Do they push up a little bit in pressure? But what defense do they show Carolina? Is it going to be that matchup zone, or is it going to be man-to-man?
These 2 Hall of Fame coaches matching wits in the final seconds here. Big free throw. Onawaku comes back, and Mahmoud goes out.
And that's because now you get your best rebounder, the guy with tremendous ups and physical toughness. Onawaku, should Carolina miss. And they do extend their pressure.
Trying to make Carolina use a little bit of time. Berry. Batted out. Berry has it back. They left him wide open for 3. Tipped, no. Another tip, no. Couple of great chances at the rim for Hicks. And a North Carolina foul with 8 seconds to go. And this crowd going crazy. 22,781, hoping that they're 8.3 seconds away from watching their team and North Carolina's 12-game winning streak. Marcus Page was called for a second foul. So Damian Lee has a pair, and he's 87%, their best. Dang Adele comes back in, played defense. A lot of teams with 3 losses in the ACC right now are going to be very happy about this result. North Carolina had a chance to open up a 3-game lead in conference. Their lead is 1. Their 12-game winning streak is over. North Carolina has now lost its last 6 road games against ranked opponents, and 10 of their last 11. This is their first road game against a ranked team this year.
Well, just what a terrific job defensively by Louisville. That matchup zone was problematic all night. They switched between that and the man. They were number 1 in the league in field goal percentage defense. They did it against, to me, the most dangerous offensive team in the country. What a performance.
And it's very much a race in the ACC. As we mentioned, North Carolina, I think, still has to be the favorite Norse, but a very tough schedule coming up for the Tar Heels. And a lot of teams now are right on their heels.
This Louisville team came in with very little expectation. You documented how much they lost in terms of their scoring.
Here's Kaylee with Damian Lee.
Well, Damian, from the matchup zone to the man-to-man, your defense gave Carolina problems all night long. Why were you able to do that?
I think really, just got to give all the credit to my team and give all the credit to Coach. I mean, Coach really challenged us, especially after our last home game, so we definitely wanted to rebound well after that.
Contested shot after contested shot, you were able to make them. How were you able to have that success?
Just confidence. I had a pretty good shooting night 2 nights ago. I had an off night last night, but just confidence that my teammates had in me just to find me.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes, sir.
24 points for Damian Lee. And a big win for Louisville. Texas and Baylor coming up next as Big Monday continues. For Kaylee Hartung and Doris Burke, Sean McDonough saying so long from Louisville. Now let's send you to Brent Musburger and Fran Fraschilla.